Hi everybody and welcome to Coffee with Craig, and today I'm going to talk about, does human lifespan have a limit? So hi again everyone, welcome to the show, and I'm going to talk today about human lifespan, something that really fascinates me. I'll be doing my predictions in a few more weeks' time, so I'm not going to do those quite yet, I'm preparing them. Now today I want to talk about, is it possible to extend our life, and is there a limit to how long we can live? And I want to particularly look at this from a spiritual perspective, and particularly from a medium's point of view, me being a psychic medium, those who haven't joined me before, and to talk about, is there a limit to how long we can live, and can we extend it somehow? Now, I'm very interested in a number of techniques, which I'll talk to you a little bit as we go through, that I think can extend human life. I've got to 68 so far. I know I look 35, but so let's hope I can keep going a long time. And I think that some of the things we do, I think there's definitely ways I believe that we can extend life. So how long can we live? I mean, the scientists have obviously been onto this. I mean, the longest living person, as far as I know, and I'm not sure if she's still alive or not, was Jeannie Calment. I think she was the longest living person so far. Lived in France, a place called Aries, I believe, and so she's one of the longest one we know of so far. Of course, there might have been other people in the past that we don't know about. They've done a lot of studies in America. I believe there was a big study done in 2016, round about that sort of time, at the Albert Einstein College of Medical Research in New York. And they seem to reckon that age would get to a certain point and then plateau. And the maximum they seem to reckon from their studies was that people could live at 125 years. That would be the absolute maximum they reckon they could get to. But that's been severely challenged, and some people say there's no plateau whatsoever, that there's no reason genetically that we couldn't continue to live almost indefinitely if we can find ways round, perhaps for changing the genes or changing something in the body that could make us extend our life somehow. So the science is out there at the moment, obviously looking at these things. Obviously there's a lot of cons out there to so-called make you look younger with all these creams and things, and these things that plump the skin up and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But I think I think there could be a chance in the future that we live much, much longer. For example, in the Indian thinking, they believe that we're in the age now of Kali Yuga, where life is short. But in the ages of Satya Yuga, they say that people can live for very, very long times. I mean, if you look, for example, in the Bible, people like Moses I think Moses lived for something like 400 years, it says there. Job had long life too, didn't he? Who else had? Joshua and Methuselah as well. Methuselah, I think, was 969 years lived for. So, there's lots of stories in the past of people living a long, long time. Now, they didn't have birth certificates in those days, and it was probably could be very easy to miscount years, and I'm sure people would exaggerate as well. But there are also some cases, possibly, that seem to suggest there might have been one or two people who lived a very, very long time. I'm just going back to that idea, first of all, with the Satya Yuga and things like that. They reckon that the god Rama in India lived for 11,000 years. And his father, Dasharatha, I think I've got it right, lived for 60,000 years. So, those are long periods of time. But of course, there's loads of question marks on all these ancient stories of could we have been visited by ancient aliens, perhaps, and we'd be talking about very different types of people. Some of these gods may be something very special. But even Krishna, who is allegedly lived for 125 years. So longevity is suggested in the past. When I was in India, I went to see. I went to Varanasi, which I find an absolutely fascinating place. That's the place on the Ganges where they burn the bodies. And it's a fascinating, eerie place, actually. And we stayed right on the waterfront, right next to one of what they call the ghats, which come down to the river where they burn the bodies. And we were right by Sindhi Ghat, I think it was called, in a little hut-like building almost. It was a pretty old building, looking over where they burnt the bodies and things. It was a fascinating place, really, really mind-boggling, And when we were there, I knew a number of people there, fortunately, who were able to introduce us to some of the hidden parts of India that most tourists would never dream of going or even be allowed into. So I'm very, very lucky that some of the people I were with had some contacts there. And we went to the place where a man called Trilanga Swami had lived. I always call him Trilinga Swami, but I think his name is pronounced Trilanga Swami. I get it wrong a bit. He was mentioned in Yogananda's book Autobiography of a Yogi, and he was supposed to have lived for 1,737 years. And the thing with him is there was records of him in the histories of him right back in those times. So the big question mark over him, and he was a miraculous yogi. He's quite a fat guy, but he used to be able, they used to, for example, be able to, he put him in prison for some reason or other, but I can't remember what the full story is, but could get out straight away, He would submerge himself in the Ganges and stay underwater for months at a time without breathing, months at a time. And did all sorts of miraculous stuff. And I was very lucky to be able to go underground. There was a place underground in a cellar in Varanasi, which was the place where he had spent his time meditating. And there was a real amazing energy in that place. Anyway, I'm going off a little bit there, but this is my personal experience of what I think is a fascinating thing. That some people maybe can live for an extraordinary amount of time. So how can we do it? Can we do it? Is it possible for us to extend our life? Well, obviously one of the most obvious things is health. If we look after our health, then we can look after our bodies on a physical level and extend our life. There might be spiritual ways too, though. This is what I'm going to come to more importantly, because there's tons out there on health and what to do with health, and we may take that advice or leave it. And obviously it's wise if we do basic things, things such as a better diet. For example, I don't necessarily believe everybody should be vegetarian. I'm not vegetarian. I think some of us need meat. I certainly feel I need it in the lifestyle I lead. But I certainly think we should introduce more fruit into our diets, all of us, because that's natural from trees, isn't it? That has been there given as our food to live on. And monkeys always look pretty fit to me. So fruit is certainly one of the things I think we need. And we need more of. I think we should up the amount to massively for what we normally eat. I think there's a lot in the idea of eating a lot more fibre too, because I think it's from the stomach often that we get most of the problems in life. And sorting your stomach out, that's something I've had to spend a lot of time with in my life. No medical problems, but general sort of digestion problems can be sorted out, I think, with a bit of fibre, I think with a bit of fruit, and I think sometimes also if we cleanse ourselves, cleansing things, colon cleanses and things, I think can be helpful, like taking ghee, for example, people will take, or take some purging thing occasionally. In India it's traditional to do that once a month, I believe, and Ayurvedic Ayurvedic medicine always recommends that type of thing. So those type of things are obvious, and then also, of course, health is important too. So I think some activity is important. I'm not a great believer in the idea of people that go to gyms. I don't think that extends life. I think it might even damage life, because it's vanity based, isn't it? Really, it's vanity based for most people. But I think certainly things like walking is very important. And also brisk walking, not just meandering along, but proper walking. I think that type of thing can help. And a certain amount of muscular strength is needed as well. All those things are out there, and the health people will tell you all about that. And I think those things obviously will extend your life. I just will add in there, though, that one of the things that I think is very important that we overlook in the West is the importance of fasting. Because fasting can definitely extend life. It's been shown that people, for example, in Islamic cultures where they have Ramadan, tend to be more healthy in lots of ways than Westerners who aren't doing these fasts, because the body gives the body a chance to recover. So I think there's a great deal to be done in the possibility of occasional fast. Very difficult to do, and takes a lot of discipline to do, really, in the Western society, again, because we've got food coming at us in every direction on the advertising and things. But I think there's something to be said in intermittent fasting, if you've not looked into that. I really do believe that's something that can extend our life as well, intermittent fasting. I've been doing it now for about 5 months, I think it's been. I've been doing it myself. You can lose a bit of weight with it, but most importantly, it gives the body a chance to recover. So for me, an intermittent fast, for example, if you want to try it yourself, so I stop eating at 6 o'clock, basically. Not all the time. I don't keep myself to a rigid, miserable sort of existence, but wherever I can, I stop eating at 6, and I don't eat again to the next day till 11 o'clock. Very frustrating for Jane, with me insisting on eating before 6. But obviously, if you've got a bit of flexibility with it, I think it's quite good. But it was quite easy. It's quite easy. It's surprisingly easy. And I'm a person that loves my sweeties, but the thing is, what happens is it changes the whole sugar balance in the body, and it particularly helps. It helps us to process sugar much better, and because sugar is what throws it all out. With with a grandchild with diabetes, we obviously look into all these things about sugar and everything like that, and it's amazing how dangerous it can be. And those peaks, sugar peaks, can be very bad for the insulin in the body and make us insulin resistant. So there's the first one. Intermittent fasting is one of the things I would suggest to you that you do. So obviously exercise of some sort is important. I'm not going to include yoga in this, because yoga is different. Yoga's different, not exercise. Yoga's something different, but I'll mention that in a moment. Sleep is another one, isn't it? Because if I think we extend our life and extend our health certainly by getting proper sleep. Most people don't get a proper night's sleep. One little tip that they say that helps people go off to sleep is to wash your face at night with cold water, because apparently it sets the whole system. This is a yoga thing they do. It sets the whole system into a much more relaxed frame and cools it down, cools the internal organs down. If we particularly wash with our I'll turn that off. If we wash with cold water, Also, I think, again, with the eating thing, not to graze snack. That's very dangerous. And also, don't do that. That was just something I feel you not good to do. Let the body eat when it needs to eat. This is something I think I've learned the hard way. Going back to sleep. Don't sleep in the daytime. Very dangerous. It breaks up your rhythms of the body, the sciatic rhythms. It ruins your vitality if you sleep in the daytime. But I do think sometimes catnapping can be a very different thing, and I think this is another thing that's I find as a medium, you see, I get very, very tired as a medium sometimes because you burn out all your prana energy when you're doing readings for people. It can get extremely tiring. Those of you out there practicing as psychics and mediums will know this. You can know that do 3 readings in a day and you've done for the next few days. So it's very important we get our energy levels back up again. And sometimes intermittent sleeping, sometimes the occasional cat nap can be very good if you know how to do it. This isn't dozing so much, it's very wide awake state catnapping. It's a sort of super meditation. It's very close to what they call Yoga Nidra, which is a teaching that is done in yoga again about visualizing the mind's attention moving around the body until the body goes into a very, very deep state of relaxation. But catnapping is much the same idea as this, in which we put ourselves into a very, very, very relaxed state. And that state, when I do it, it's painful. For me, it's like painful almost at one point, and then you go beyond that and the body just, and it's gone. And you go into a state where I personally find I see a lot of what we call hypnagogic imagery. You see all this imagery moving, and it's like all the processing of the brain is taking care of itself. Fantastic stuff, but I'm not doing it. The brain's doing it, and it's like I think it's part of the brain clearing out the rubbish sometimes in that particular state. So I think that's important too. And also, let's come now to things like meditation and yoga, because these are the things where we start to get into the areas that people like Trilanga Swami dealt with. You know, these great yogis that live for a long, long time. And there's supposed to be yogis out there now living in the Himalayas. You could read the books by Swami Rama, for example. Absolutely brilliant stories of people that live in the Himalayas, hidden away from the world, who have lived for extraordinary long periods of time. Same too in some of the Tibetan teachings. Alexander David O'Neill's books, for example, also talk about people that lived extraordinary long times and are still supposed to be there. One is Sri Guru Babaji, most people would call him, or Yogananda calls him Maha Avatar Swami. Maha Avatar. He calls him Maha Avatar Swami. I think Guru. I can't remember now. But you see it in the you'll see it in the yoga books of Yogananda, in the books of autobiography of a yogi, particularly with fabulous stories to read there. But so these things are possible, and there's certain techniques that I think we can use to help extend our consciousness, but at the same time extend our health and our life. Now, I think one of the most important things, if one is extending one's life, is the actual why we have the desire to extend the life in the first place. So, for example, there's yogis that will, for example, jump from one body to another to extend their life. They will take a corpse from the funeral pyres in places where I was, like in Varanasi there, and some of these live extraordinarily frightening lives, actually, the yogis that live underneath the funeral pyres. I remember watching one caught my eye and scared the living daylights out of me because he had such a power in his eye. It was scary. Lived in filth, this one, and eats corpses, some of them say. But some of those, the stories, and actually going back to Stories of the Himalayan Masters by Swami Rama, which is a great book, I say. There's stories of people that jump between bodies to one body to another. And there was lots of stories of that when I went to India last time, and I was speaking to people when I went to stay on an ashram there in Kerala. So these are rife, these stories of people that can move from one body to another. They take the body of someone that's recently dead and reanimate it, particularly if it's a child. So things like that go on, and whether they're stories or whether they're myths or whether it really happens, you know, when the more I dig into India, the more I believe these things are absolutely true. You know, I wouldn't be talking to you about this if I didn't really feel there was something really true behind it. So these techniques that people learned, of course, people have abused these stories, like Lobsang Rampar's nonsense in his books. But anyway, so is it possible also for us, actually, without doing all these horrible things, seem horrible, but is there a reason that we would want to extend our life? And I think the only real reason to extend our life is for spiritual development. For extending our life just for the sake of it means we're grasping onto life and therefore could lose the very thing that we want. Who would want to have a long life of suffering? Who would want a long life in a body that is completely in a terrible state, so old that it's falling to pieces? We wouldn't want that. We want a long life, but we want a healthy life. So the techniques that are shown in yoga are more to tell us how to make our life long, but also healthy. So obviously there's the asanas that we do, or asanas. It depends whether north or south of India you come from, how you pronounce it. But there's the yoga postures, as Westerners might call it, fabulous for releasing the energy in the body. This is where we start to release what we call the prana. It's nothing to do about exercise. It's all about energetic things. It's all about releasing the energy and ultimately getting us to a state so that we can sit in stillness and we can sit in the final posture where we're sat in the lotus posture in comfortably in meditation. That's what it's all about, just to get us into that point where we can be prepared to sit and develop our spirituality with the inner work that begins with meditation. But there's a number of techniques, and there's one particular technique that anybody particularly would like to explore, is the idea of kriya. It's like an alchemy. It's these techniques which go right back beyond Indian civilization, I believe, go right back to earlier civilization, Kamari Kandam perhaps, or goes back perhaps to Atlantis, to who knows when, to the ancient aliens that came here, to perhaps teach us, the snake people of the Naga that we can read of in Indian mythology. But the teachings of yoga show us how to use the body in a different way to what we do with the physical work. We release energetic powers in our body. I see the aura when I do my mediumistic work. I see it. It's without a doubt, it's there. Others out there may have that same gift. And when we can see the aura, it's like nobody's going to tell me that the aura's not there. These are not tricks of the light, looking into bright lights and things like this, or things, floaters in the eye and things like that. No, you see it, and you can see it round the hand. You can see it move. You can see it in dark rooms. You can see it in lighted rooms. You can see it in all sorts of situations. It exists. This is our subtle body, our energetic body, our prana body, and that is where the secret of longer life comes. That life force, life trons, as Yogananda called it, that can stimulate every single cell in the body. Now, we can increase that auric energy to make the body more energetic generally. There's a certain vigor that's called with this. The word of it is Ojas. They call it Ojas. You'll find this in Ayurvedic medicine as well. I don't know the details of Ayurveda, but this word Ojas suggests that there's a vigor to every single cell of the body. And this is brought about by using the energetic fields of the body to stimulate the growth of the body. It stimulates the essence, I suppose, of ourselves. The Ojas is made of the water element and the earth element combining. But we have 5 elements in the body that we can manipulate and use. And these come out in a lot of teachings. For example, in Taoism, in the old teachings of the secret of the golden flower. If you look in there, it talks about the development of the diamond body. And the teachings there, which Carl Jung tried to understand, but I think missed the point of, because he didn't have the same knowledge, I think, of the yogic teachings, is really a technique for us to develop long life. It's about seeking eternal life. This is what alchemy was all about. The philosopher's stone would give us long, permanent, eternal life. That's what the goal was. The very quests that people like Gilgamesh had searched for all those years ago in Sumeria and the stories from there. These are all the stories of the same perhaps quest that these people have been doing through the centuries. Mankind has always wanted to develop long life. We think, why can't we live forever? There must be a way. So there's a load of secret techniques there, which I can't really go into all the details. But if you look into Kriya, there's a lot on the web about it, and quite a few of the techniques are being revealed. But I've been taught it, and when I was taught it, I was taught that you must never speak it to another person. It's secret. And it needs to be that way, only because these techniques, when you use them, are so powerful. You know, when you start getting people, for example, that start to commercialize it under, for example, under the guise of Kundalini yoga. Now, that's where we talk about the idea of the coiled snake, or it's the energy snake, as it were. It's the energy in the base of the spine that rises up the spine through what we call the sushumna, which is the middle of the spine, and then reaches the top of the head and expands into higher consciousness. That is where all the teachings come in. But the problem is, loads of people have said, yes, I can. I remember meeting some guys in sort of dark suits, and came up to me, and this is when I was in early years in the hippie days, and someone came to, hello sir, can I interest you in Kundalini yoga? And I'm crikey, no thank you. These guys look really dodgy people, you know, they look like Mormons on acid, you know. But so I think you've got to be a bit cautious, and I've known people that have sort of, for example, in the Divine Light Mission stuff, where they take the knowledge and just by a simple technique where you do something to the base of the spine physically, it releases those energies and sends people into God knows what places. Because if the energy releases wrongly and goes the wrong way, it can take you into, not into heaven but into hell. So this is why it's secret, because it has to be done with great clarity, with great proper teaching, and done gently and gradually. There's no need for these forceful techniques, and you need to be planning to do it over many, many years. But once you learn to release the energies in the spine and let these energies go through the chakras and open up, then all sorts of things are possible. It's the very thing that we do as mediums. I mean, mediums practice a sort of a very simplified version of these things in spiritualism, in which they move the light, as it were, I see it as a light, up the spine, through the chakras to the top of the head, and then expand the aura. This is a simple technique that I've got put out there as well. And once we do that, we connect with the spirit world. That's how we connect with the spirit world. That's how I connect with the spirit world, by opening my auric frame to the point that I'm very, very aware of the spirit people. But this same thing, which is behind mediumship, is the same thing that can be used to make our lives longer, because we can then use the prana, because the prana energy we have ourselves, but there's also pranic energy everywhere, infinite, all over the place, and an infinite sea we are actually in of pranic energy, and we can draw from the universe, as it were, and we can draw that vitality. We can draw that energy, we can draw the inspiration and the love of it, we can draw from the divine source, and our bodies will radiate that beautiful energy that we call prana. When it's manifest in the body, it becomes prana, and prana has different forms as well, but let's call it just prana for now. And that's the secret. That's the way in. But the thing to do is do all of these things, and also, why do we want to do it? You know, I've consulted many nadis, as you know, because I'm very, very interested in the nadis. That's what my book, Be Happy, is all about. That's my book, Messages from the Universe, is all about. They're all about, you know, my quest to find out the meaning of life through the nadis. And they've said to me more of late that, okay, you've done your karmic work now. Your life has been extended. And each time I've consulted another nadi, it says, you've done some more karmic work. You can now extend your life in your life. We cleared the karma, and now, you know, you can choose when you die. I thought, oh, that's pretty good. Not an easy choice to make, but maybe one has more control and will actually then choose the time to go. And I think that is perhaps the greatest thing, because who wants to live forever? Not really. I don't think I want to live forever, but I would like to live long enough to be able to complete my work. And I think that's what each of us do. And that nadi thing I've just talked about is really the final thing that I need to sort of mention, as well as that karma yoga can be a very good way of clearing the negativity that may manifest as illness in ourselves. So what I mean by karma yoga is not like yoga, stretchy, bendy yoga. This is more like an action. We do good deeds, we do good things in the world. Now, all those charitable acts that you do in the world actually do have an effect. And not just the physical charitable acts, more importantly, what's going on in your soul. If you're doing something with a genuine love to help somebody, You know, it can be someone close to you, it can be a complete stranger, even better. But if we do charitable acts, and also if we particularly do them at a good time, astrologically, but that's another time for another talk, I think. But we do these good acts, it makes a massive effect, not only to help others, but clears our karma, clears all the karma that we brought forward from previous lives that at some point could manifest as something negative in our life, including illness. So we may be able to, maybe not be able to get rid of it completely, but we can negate the negative effects of that, or spread it out so that it doesn't become something that is life-threatening. So that, in many respects, is the way to extend life as far as I see it, you know. And I've certainly extended this video today. Sorry, I only intended to speak for a short time, but I think it's an interesting topic. And I hope some of you could, you know, there's plenty there to talk about, plenty to look up. There's, you know, have a look in my books if you want to learn more about these type of ideas. And there's lots of clues there of things, places you can look to find out more. And I think it's something we can revisit again. And probably one more thing that I should have mentioned is about the power of thought. Because as mediums, like Jane has had someone for healing the other day, or sometimes people, we do absent healing for people. When you do healing, you have to think a positive thought and send the energy on a positive thought. You don't think about the illness, you think about the recovery. And we're projecting healing energy all the time, all of us are. You know, we can do it through consciously doing healing, or we can do it through prayer if that's your way. All these things help lift the spirit of other people. These are good thoughts that we do. But the same way, positive thoughts to ourselves heals ourselves. You know, there's the placebo effect, where sometimes people are given a fake pill and says that'll make you better, and they believe it, and they take the pill and they get better. It has the same effect as the actual real pill would have. Remarkable effects sometimes. So that placebo effect, which could be us making our body work, or making us draw upon these spiritual energies I'm talking about. You know, there's lots of ways of looking at the potential of this placebo effect. But positive thoughts to ourselves, you know, when people say, oh, I've had a gut full of this, you know, you're going to make yourself ill, aren't you? Oh, this is killing me. Don't use words like that, you know. You're jinxing yourself. You know, positive thoughts is making me feel so much better. I feel like 10 men. 9 of them dead and 1 dying. But, you know, we got to think positive. Positive. It's also the other thing that extends our life, extends our health, and actually, more than anything, makes us happy. I'd rather have a short life full of happiness than a long life full of sadness. So the other final thing is be happy. Just be happy. There's no techniques you need for that. That's the nature of your soul. Just be happy. That's one of the ways to get there. Not only to have a long life, but have a happy one too. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me and bearing with me with this. We'll be doing some more videos soon with all the predictions for the 2023 coming up. So don't forget to follow this channel if you want to get all those updates too, and all the other interesting stuff that we do with our live shows and the rest of it. So thanks for joining us. See you soon. Bye for now. Today we're having a chat with Nanny Joan, who is Jane's mum.
Who's 91 years young.
First thing that I'd do would change the system from, Social Security back to Labour Exchange. That you clock on a Monday, and on the Wednesday, if there's any job available, you get 3 chances, and if you don't take it, you don't turn up Friday to collect your money.
Yeah, that's how
So what about people? How would you pay everyone then?
Well,
do you think
coupons.
people get? Oh, right, okay.
So they supply enough for their food, enough for their clothes, but not for a luxury life. Definitely not.
So sort of, you just get coupons. What for?
Yeah,
Food,
like wartime.
you get clothes, food.
Wartime coupons.
Well,
So they don't have Sky TV, and they don't smoke, they don't drink.
Oh well, they can if they have a drink, if they got enough over.
So,
A coupon, no doubt they'd be selling them.
so basically, you're not very happy with the unemployed.
No, I'm not. I don't blame those that's very disabled and can't go to work.
But
like
the person can't help
no
themselves.
legs,
A person
things
can't
like
help
that.
themselves if they're at
Yeah.
work, though, can they?
But I
really?
think you should get these lazy blighters up out of every morning out of bed.
Yeah.
The government's to blame, I reckon. The system's all to blame, what the, you know.
How would you change the system apart from what you were saying about giving the unemployed vouchers? Any other ideas?
Yeah, look after the older people a bit better.
So basically, you're rooting for yourself,
So
Joan,
those that
aren't
works
you?
hard from an early age of 14, what do they get? Nothing.
Yeah. Oh well, there we go. That's
Anything
Nanny
else?
Joan for you. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget, leave your comments. We'd like to hear what you have to say about some of these
Excuse me, brain.
some of these brilliant ideas.
Like a youngster.
And yeah, follow this channel, folks, and please share it. Well, perhaps you better not share this one, but leave a comment. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.